discussed, some bacteria can be found naturally in food and others can get into food through bad food handling practices. Our bodies can usually fight off small numbers of bacteria. Bacteria become dangerous when they are given the chance to multiply. It takes time for bacteria to multiply. In the right conditions, the number of bacteria can double as quickly as every 20 minutes. So if you start off with one germ, in 20 minutes it will split and you will have 2. Another 20 minutes, the 2 will become 4, then 4 will become 8, and so on. At that rate, there will be more than 1 billion germs after 10 hours. Some bacteria can get someone sick with just a few bacteria, especially if the person has a weak immune system. In this picture, you can see that if bacteria are allowed to keep splitting, it doesn't take long for food to become very dangerous. So how do we keep these bacteria from multiplying? In order to keep growing, bacteria need several things: food, moisture, time, and a temperature that allows growth. If we can control at least one of these factors, we can stop the bacteria from multiplying and keep the food safe. Typically, many of the foods we eat are very moist and a perfect place for bacteria to grow. These foods are usually called perishable and can go bad if they are left out at room temperature. Another name for them is potentially hazardous foods, or PHF for short. Most bacteria can multiply quickly while living in or on potentially hazardous foods. Some examples of potentially hazardous foods are dairy products, eggs, meat, seafood, and even foods that have already been cooked. We have to handle potentially hazardous foods very carefully in order to limit the growth of bacteria. The best way to keep bacteria from growing in potentially hazardous foods is to keep them at the right temperature. There are 2 ways that you can do this. You can either keep potentially hazardous foods cold at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or colder, or hot at 135 degrees Fahrenheit or hotter. The temperature range between 41 and 135 degrees is called the temperature danger zone because these are the temperatures where bacteria grow best. Sounds easy enough, right? Either keep the food cold or hot. So what can you, the food worker, do to make sure that potentially hazardous foods stay safe and out of the temperature danger zone? Well, you can't tell by looking at food if it's hot or cold enough, and feeling it with our hands is not a good option either. Thermometers are the only way to know for sure if the food is at a safe temperature. The place where you work should have thermometers on hand to check temperatures. There should be a thermometer in every refrigerator to make sure that the food inside is at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or colder. Keep in mind that refrigerator doors are opened and closed many times throughout the day. Each time the door is opened, some of the cold air comes out. In order to make sure that the food inside stays at 41 degrees or colder, the refrigerator should be set at a lower temperature, like 38 or 39 degrees Fahrenheit. It is also important to have clean probe thermometers so that you can check the temperature inside of both hot and cold food. The temperature inside of the food is most important and will be one of the main things the health inspector checks during their inspection. By cooking food to the right temperatures, most bacteria and other germs will be destroyed. This means that all parts of the food, even the inside, must reach a minimum of 145 to 165 degrees Fahrenheit, depending on the type of food. You can use a probe thermometer to make sure that you have cooked food long enough. Stick the thermometer into the thickest part of the food to make sure that it is cooked all the way through. Remember to clean and sanitize the thermometer between uses. Here are the minimum cooking temperatures and times. 145 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds for raw shell eggs, broken for a single customer order and served right away. Fish. And single pieces of meat such as beef, veal, lamb, pork, or game animal. 155 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds for hamburger or other meat that is chopped or ground. Raw shell eggs that are not served immediately for a single customer order or any other foods containing raw eggs. Ratites, which are the bird's emu or ostrich. And injected meats that are injected with solutions for flavor or tenderness. 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds for poultry like chicken or turkey. Comminuted poultry that is chopped or ground. Stuffed foods like fish, meat, poultry, ratites, or pasta. And stuffing that contains fish, meat, poultry, or ratites. Food that has already been cooked and cooled can be reheated and then served again. You must make sure that the food reaches 165 degrees Fahrenheit when it is reheated. Only after food has been cooked or reheated can it be placed in a steam table or other equipment for hot holding at 135 degrees Fahrenheit or above. Remember, the food must already be at 165 degrees Fahrenheit before it is put into the hot holding unit. You may want to save food that you have cooked so you can serve it again later. This is okay, but the food will need to be cooled to 41 degrees Fahrenheit quickly. This can be hard if you have a lot of food to cool. For example, if you have a large pot of hot refried beans and you put it into the walk-in cooler, the beans close to the sides of the pot will get cold quickly, but the beans in the center will stay in the temperature danger zone, sometimes for days. Food that stays out of temperature for a long time will grow dangerous levels of bacteria. This is why cooked food must be cooled quickly. You can take as long as 6 hours to cool hot foods down to 41 degrees Fahrenheit as long as they are cooled to 70 degrees Fahrenheit within the first 2 hours. There are several ways that you can do this. Large amounts of food can be split up into smaller, shallow containers. When cooling, food should never be more than 4 inches deep. Always use metal pans instead of plastic. Metal pans will help transfer the heat better so the food will cool down faster. You can also cool small containers of food by placing them in an ice water bath. When using an ice water bath, make sure that the container is pushed down into the ice water bath to the level of the food. If you don't, only the bottom portion of the food will get cold, allowing germs to grow on the other parts of the food. It will also help if you stir the food while it is in the ice water bath so it cools down faster. Another way to help food cool down faster is using chill paddles. Chill paddles are hollow plastic paddles that you can fill with water and then freeze. Once frozen, you can stir the food with the paddle and it will help cool the food from the inside out. And finally, some facilities use special equipment that cools foods quickly, like a chill blaster. No matter which method you choose, use a probe thermometer to make sure the temperature is dropping in the right amount of time. It is always a good idea to keep written records of how much time it takes the food to get to the proper temperature. Did you know that there are only 4 ways to thaw food to keep it out of the temperature danger zone? You can thaw food while you are cooking it. An example of this is soup or stew. When you put frozen vegetables into the soup pot, they will thaw while the soup is being cooked. The best way to thaw food is in the refrigerator. This will take some planning because it will take a lot of time for the food to completely thaw. The good thing about using a refrigerator is that the temperature will never get above 41 degrees Fahrenheit as long as the refrigerator is working. Another way to thaw food is in a clean preparation sink. The sink should be filled with cool water so the food is surrounded. The faucet should be turned on so that the cool water is running over the frozen food. The cool water will thaw the food and flush away particles, but won't allow it to reach dangerous temperatures. The last way you can thaw food is in the microwave. This is a very fast way to thaw food. If you choose to use the microwave to thaw frozen food, keep in mind that the food needs to be used as soon as it is done defrosting.